Okay, I understand we do have a quorum, so we'll get underway shortly. But first, we do have a couple of announcements. First, I was going to announce that, as many of you may know, we are in Townsend, we're having a celebration of America's 250th birthday. This involves some events, talks on April 12th by Gary Entwistle about his book, April Breeze. The Minutemen will be mustering and drilling on the Common on April 19th. And there is a Model T story about a 1927 road trip in a Model T, not exactly bicentennial, but historic. And that'll be at Memorial Hall on May 3rd. There's some information up front as you pass out of the meeting. Well, don't pass out at the meeting, but pass out of the meeting. And if you want more information about it, the big event, though, is the parade on June 20th, 2026, which is 250 years after Townsend voted to instruct its representatives to vote for independence from Great Britain. So we hope that you all participate in the parade, and there is an Old Home Day on the Common after the parade. That's Saturday, June 20th. The parade starts at 10. No, stepping off at 11, sorry. And we are having some devotional services in the morning at 9 o'clock at the Methodist Church, and followed by a reenactment of that town meeting back in 1776. So if you want more information, there's some information out back, and go to, was it Bill, Townsend250.org? Townsend250.org, and you can get more information about it. Now, Kelly, I think you had an announcement you wanted to make. Yep, please. You guys, you good?
Hi, my name is Kelly. I, along with a few other people, are on Project 211 Plus, which is a community grassroots effort to change the state funding formula for school districts across Massachusetts. There are currently 272 districts in the state of Massachusetts that are impacted by a state funding formula that has impacted towns like North Middlesex, where it has shifted the burden of financing the school budgets dramatically on the towns, which has then impacted municipal budgets. We've made progress over the last couple of years with outreach in community efforts to have a large showing at the Ways and Means hearings and the budget hearings, and we have finally started to get the attention of the state and all the state reps. So the state reps from those 272 districts are all well aware that school districts are hurting, municipalities are hurting in turn because we are not able to get our funding because we are called minimum aid districts, and our school districts are not getting increases because we're minimum aid. We're asking on March 23rd, there's a Ways and Means hearing in Lawrence, Massachusetts, and then there's another hearing at the State House on March 31st where people can testify. The more emails and phone calls that the State House receives, the more this pressures our representatives and senators to pass a budget that gives more money to the schools, which in turn allows the municipalities to have more money in their budget. We are pushing for a commission to be formed by the state to fix the funding formula. The Student Opportunity Act ends this year, and the State House is agreeable, hopefully, to start looking at that formula to fix this long term, which should hopefully then end the need for these overrides and the municipality versus the school fight that seems to be happening. So how can you help? We have a website. It's called fixedfundingformulama.com. On this website, it's information about what has happened, the progress we've made. We got some supplemental funding last year. We're actually, hopefully, the House representative just passed some supplemental funding for this year. We're hoping it makes its way through the process.
Ask Adam to advise.
We need letters, we need emails, we need phone calls. If you go to that website, there's a button on the very first page that says click here. It brings you to templates that have already been made for you, as well as the email addresses of everybody on the Ways and Means. You just have to copy and paste. We were told that the State House is getting a ton of emails from parents about the schools, and what the state reps really want are now emails or calls from municipalities and citizens saying, this is how it's now affecting me. I don't have kids in schools, but as a police officer in town, we can't get our contract raises, or we're losing officers, we're losing firefighters, we're paying for trash, we're having to cut hours at the senior center. Whatever way it's affecting you, you're tired of override votes. Whatever we can put the pressure on to let them know that these districts are hurting, that'd be great. So there's a template there that you can send as is, or you can add additional information. There's also, which I'm going to put somewhere out back, maybe by the registration table.
Yep, you can put them out there by the tables. I've got my notices out there too.
If you're not an email person or a letter person, we do have a 2-page handout here. There's a QR code that brings you right to the website, and it's also there. On the back, there's a script, and we provided all of the phone numbers to everybody on the Ways and Means Committee. Take some time, read the script, call them, just get on record. The more they hear from us, the more impact it has, and they feel the pressure. So the state reps that we're working with are really asking for us to flood the emails so that they can come back and say this has to get done. So we're asking for your help. You don't have to read the script, but it's provided for you if it's right there. So take 10 minutes. We're doing all we can, and if you're tired of it, do more than complain on Facebook. Take some action, get out there and help us, because it benefits everybody in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. We good? Okay. All right. Kelly, you might get a chance to reprise a little bit of that later, because I don't think we were on record yet. So you got the notice out to everybody in the hall, but we're just now online, I think. It's recorded. It's recorded anyway? Okay, good. Okay, so we have one more announcement, sadly. Many of you will remember Shirley Coit, our former emergency management director, civil defense director, would always make a presentation here before the start of the meeting and explain to people what they needed to do to be ready in the event of an emergency. Sadly, Shirley passed away on December 7th, and there will be a celebration of life for her this Saturday, March 21st, at 3 p.m. at the Methodist Church, which is the large colonial church on the hill in the center of town. So I'm sure all of you will remember Shirley and thank her for her service to the town, and I'd like to ask for a moment of silence now as we remember Shirley's contribution to our town. Okay, thank you, folks. Now, the TCAM is recording. For anybody who wants to watch the meeting, it's on cable television, Channel 8, Channel 9. And I think we're all set up. We don't have the scouts here tonight, so I'd ask people, if you want to speak, to raise your hand, be recognized, and come up to the microphone. If you, we may have some lines at the microphones, and then I'll take each person in line in a line. I'd ask that people, keep their comments directed and professional, and not engage in any personalities. Also, I would ask people to, make your statements, and I will allow follow-up questions, but I don't want people to go on and on and on unless they're making a cogent point that needs to be explained. But I'm going to try to let everybody that wants to speak, so we have to let everybody take their turn. And so, my understanding is that there is a quorum. All right, there being a quorum present, I call this special town meeting, March 19th, 2026, to order. And Mr. Clerk, well, we don't have the scouts, but do we have a flag? Uh-oh. There's no flag in the high school. No flag in the high school auditorium, huh? Okay. Well, I think we'll have to pass on that. I would think that we'd have a flag here someplace, but...
We're looking for a flag. One's coming.
You got one? Thank you. Okay, thanks. While we're looking for the flag, I'll remind, are there any visitors here in the hall? They're not voters? Okay. Visitors need to sit down in this section in the front, please, because I need to know who is voting and who is not voting, so, because we generally will do a voice vote. So, any visitors should be down in the front of the hall, please. On my left, your right. Well, we do have a flag. Okay. All right, we'll let everybody get their seat. The chief, you don't have to sit down there because you're a department head. As long as you don't vote. Okay, thank you, folks. All right, I'm going to say the Pledge of Allegiance, and I guess I'll lead us. Everyone, please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. I am going to, tonight I'm going to omit the introductions. I think everybody knows everybody up here, and if you don't, you'll find out pretty soon. The meeting is conducted under the rules in town meeting time. It's a manual for municipalities, town meetings. And so just to review some of those points, before you speak, you need to be recognized by me. Once recognized, you can approach the microphone. And please, when you are recognized, please state your name and your address clearly. My hearing is starting to go, so I'd appreciate it if you speak up. All motions that are made need to be brought in writing, must be in writing and brought to the clerk. Any matter that's finally voted tonight may be reconsidered tonight if there is a majority vote tonight. If perchance the meeting goes into a second night, it would require a 9/10 vote to be reconsidered. The votes are taken by ayes and noes. And the moderator determines the outcome of the vote. If there is a doubt in my mind, I will ask the counters to come forward. If anybody questions my determination of what the outcome is, if 7 people stand and rise to ask for a standing count, we'll have a standing count. If you have a confusion about what's going on, and you wish to raise a point of order, or you think something is in error, you can interrupt the speaker. You can stand and say, point of order, Mr. Moderator. And then once I recognize you, but you have to be recognized, I'll ask you to state your point of order, and then I'll rule on that point of order. If there's something that's interfering with your ability to hear or participate, like there's a noise or talking or something that's inconveniencing you, then you can rise to a point of privilege and let me know what that is. Motion to move the question. For those of you who are not familiar, this is a motion to cut off debate. It's not debatable and only requires a majority vote. However, our practice has been in town that it's not appropriate to file or make a motion to move the question if there is not very many people have spoken. If there's still a lot of people that want to speak, we have to give them a chance to speak. If we're going over and over the same ground and there's still people that want to speak and someone makes a motion to move the question, I will probably recognize that. Ask everybody to be courteous and keep applause to a minimum. Visitors may speak if there is no objection. If there is an objection, depending on what if the visitor's information would be helpful to the town meeting to make a decision, they can still be recognized. But generally, we defer to the meeting to determine whether or not the person should address the meeting. This is our town meeting, so it's up to all of us to make these decisions. Except, there is an exception for department heads. They can speak since they have important things to convey to the town. All right. That's a question. I have to just check if Mr. Rahala is here. I don't think so. All right, so we hopefully won't need him. If so, Mr. Mayotte will have to take over if something happens to me. Okay. Now, Mr. Mayotte, is there a return of the warrant?
Mr. Moderator, there is. Pursuant to the within warrant, I have notified and warned the inhabitants of the town of Townsend by posting up attested copies of the same at Memorial Hall, 272 Main Street, at the Center, Police Communication Center at 70 Brookline Road, West Townsend Reading Room at 264 Dudley Road, Harbor Fire Station at 47 Main Street, and Harbor Church at 80 Main Street, as within at least 14 days before the date of the meeting, as within directed. Signed, Mark Francis, Police Officer of Townsend.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayotte. All right, that brings us to Article 1. To see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $41,599.79 for the purchase, implementation, and initial subscription of budgeting and financial planning software from ClearGov, including onboarding and setup services, or take any other action in relation thereto.
Mr.
Relative
Moderator,
thereto.
may I present some information in regards to this article?
We need a motion first, Mr. Karen. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator, could we have our interim town administrator do a presentation?
Not without a
We
motion.
want the motion for the,
We need a motion to do anything.
so moved. Second.
No, I'm sorry. We need a motion on the article. The article is to see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash. So we need a motion to do that, to start our debate and take any presentations.
You guys done this before? Your first town meeting?
Mr. Moderator, I'll make a motion that we hear the report of the town administrator as it relates to Article 1. Okay.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town transfer from free cash the sum of $41,599.79 for the purchase, implementation, and initial subscription of budgeting and financial planning software from ClearGov, including onboarding and setup services.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Is there anything to be said? Mr. Karen?
Hi, folks. Kieran, your new interim town administrator. I'll present different warrant articles for the town here tonight. Article 1 is ClearGov for the town of Townsend. It's a software product that your select board and other residents have reached out to us for the purpose of budgeting and financial planning for the town. The goal being it really hones in on transparency and long-term financial planning for the town. So for folks that like projections and impacts of different agreements and different changes in employees, projects, and such related to those types of focuses of the town, this type of software really enables a town to do that with more than an Excel spreadsheet. I know there were some issues with Excel spreadsheets in the past, so this sort of amplifies the abilities of the town to go through different projections, different financial planning, and really have a more modern way of tracking the budget for the town. As part of the research on ClearGov, we looked back at different towns and cities near us that are using ClearGov. Our neighbors in Pepperell, Lunenburg, Ayer, Littleton, Winchendon, Lancaster, Stowe, Concord, Bedford, Lowell, Shrewsbury, about 16 different communities in the area are using ClearGov. It is a really useful tool for tracking purposes, and I think it enables us to get information more quickly online and available to folks looking for budgetary information as residents and taxpayers.
All right, thank you, Mr. Karen. Is there anything to be said? Further discussion? Ms. King?
Cindy King, 1 West Elm Street. I just want to speak up strongly in favor of this article. I know that the town is a little short of money, but I think this is a critical, important software that we need as townspeople, as taxpayers, especially those of us, if you're here at this town meeting, you care about what's going on in our town government. If you didn't, you wouldn't be here. But, so you want to know what's going on, what's the analysis, where's our money going? How can we tell, you know, are we getting worse, are we getting better? What's the 5-year analysis? What's the trending? Are we going to have enough money to pay for the things we desperately need? And you can't do that with an Excel spreadsheet. We can't sit here and look at an Excel spreadsheet and have anybody in here tell us what's going on with the town, other than here's the budget and line by line. You need to do something else with an Excel spreadsheet to figure it out. And I think many of us could testify that over the last 5 or 6 years or longer, or often, from time to time at least, we've been told there's an error in the town budget. A few years ago, was it $300,000 error?
Close, just under.
And where, there was something wrong in the formula in one of the columns. And we ended up with a financial crisis in December. And I think that was when Nelson was he had just walked in the door. We just had our new select board members after the resignations, you know, were just thrown this almost their first meeting. We have a $300,000 deficit because there was a mistake in the Excel spreadsheet. If we use this ClearGov, it prevents that. And it also provides a picture with charts and graphs, and it's sortable, and it goes on the website. So every single one of us can look at it and say, what's going on with our budget? What's going on with our money? Where's my tax dollars going? What percentage of it is going to snow and ice? What percentage of it is going to police? How much are we, you know, what does it cost for us to keep the fire department? What about, you know, are we putting, you know, the town hall looks like it needs some work. You know, how much money is going to maintenance of town hall? What about capital spending? You know, you just get this idea, you want to look something up. You have nowhere to look right now. But with ClearGov, I'm just going to say it's awesome. And if you can get on the internet right now, you can look up Pepperell's website. They have ClearGov. And the ClearGov program is on the towns that have it. They have it on their website, where anybody can look up the financial picture, not just an Excel spreadsheet of the budget. And you can sort through it. You can find a number of standardized reports, and I think you can even kind of do your own. You know, like, I want to ask this question, and there's a number of packages that come with it. This is a thing that I strongly recommend that we get this. I think it will pay for itself.
Ms. King?
In management. I know, I'm sorry, I'm going on and on, but I just think it's really a great program, and I just want to encourage my fellow voters to say yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Streeter?
Hi, Colby Share, Walls Hill Road. How much is the yearly subscription cost of it?
Sure. Yeah, great question. So for a little background, the $41,599.79 is for a 1-year subscription, implementation, and a partial year. We would be signing a 3-year contract with the software provider ClearGov. It averages about $23,500 a year, and they do have an annual subscription increase of about 6% each year built into their agreement.
Okay, question comes on the motion. Yep.
My name is Jody DeShanes. I do not live in town, but I work in the assessing office. My question is, the town currently has Vadar system software, which has a budgeting module, which we could get for free. So I guess I'm not sure why that wasn't considered.
So Vadar was considered, and we, you know, I'll say it was quickly looked at, as I've been here for about 2 months. You know, I think ClearGov has become the real standard in the region, so I think that's where our head goes in terms of having a more modern tool and more easily accessible for those at home and online. I don't know if Vadar has all those capabilities that we're paying for right now. It does have very similar back-end room module type budgeting functions. For those that remember, like your old school Macs that you played Oregon Trail on or you used FileMaker on, it's sort of that older look and feel. And I think Vadar is probably an older version of what now ClearGov being the more modern kind of approach to technology and using software as a service. So,
I guess to follow up with that question, 4 departments use it currently. So are we just going to be left behind with this ClearGov? So we'll just be on Vadar, and then ClearGov will be just for budgeting?
yeah, I don't.
That seems like...
Yeah, sure. So
a
I don't know
disconnect.
all the nuances in terms of implementation, and I think we would probably bring ClearGov on board. They'd done this once before, a handful of years back, and it just didn't move into implementation phase. So I think it would be the residents decide if they want to move forward with it and take it from there. So.
Okay.
Okay, question comes on the motion. Go ahead.
Dr. Christian Ramon Ramirez, 172 Fitchburg Road. Mr. Moderator, I have 2 questions, if I may. For the intern town administrator, what are other options besides this program that has been considered? And number 2, I see that the Finance Committee is not recommending the purchase of this program. And I was wondering if the Finance Committee can talk a little bit more why they're hesitant on not recommending the purchase of this program. So one is for what are the other options, number 1, and number 2, have the Finance Committee voice why they're not recommending for us to vote on this particular article. Thank you.
Okay,
Sure.
thank you. Go ahead, Mr.
Yep.
Meehan.
So first part of your question being other options, Vadar, first and foremost, as Ms. Duchesne's just shared with us, is certainly an option, and it's an internal product we're using now within different departments. ClearGov, again, is sort of what a lot of our neighbors are using, and they've been very successful with it. So we wouldn't be, the beta testers on this. We'd be the ones that are adopting sort of midstream. I can't think of any other products off the top of my head, and I will allow the FinCom a moment to speak if that's okay with Mr. Moderator. So.
Okay, Mr. Hay.
Sorry. So we had been part of it. There were 2 of us that were still around at the time we tried to implement ClearGov the first time. It was not successful going through the data out, didn't seem to match the data in. We couldn't marry it to the town. We had one option presented to us at a presentation in November, and it was ClearGov. The software itself and the licensing was going to be $23,000 a year on an ongoing basis. This adding that into the budget would bust the budget for next year, and it would be a continued cost. After 5 years, that would be over $100,000 that we would have implemented and paid. If we decided to back out, we would have nothing other than the lease and the use of it for 5 years. We thought, we did a quick Google search. There are about 7 other companies that offer municipality software packages that we haven't seen anybody come in and give a presentation as ClearGov did. The ClearGov presentation was not for Townsend Data. It was from some other town. So it does nice graphics based on databases that are in the background. And so that's all you're seeing. This is a user interface program that's going into the data and bringing it out at different points. We are at a point now, we could be at a tipping point that a graphics user interface could be replaced by AI in a couple of years, and that's where we may want to get out of it. It's another system that is not connected to the systems we use today. One of the things we need, I believe, is a good understanding of the systems map, how it integrates, and how we're going to continue to be successful in the town with an integrated set of systems. So this was just layering on another system that didn't appear to be connected to the others that are already in the system. It has functionality in it that can replace some of the systems we already use, but we don't have a plan. And again, the free cash, we have very little free cash left over for this. If we were to use this, I think we would expend it all and not have any other free cash available to use. So it's a multitude of issues why we're not recommending passing this motion.
Okay, comments come on the motion. I think, Ms. Priest, you were up.
Thank you. Dawn Priest, 8 Pine Street. I agree a budgeting software would be really beneficial to the town. I just have concerns about how we're going to pay for it. I think our free cash was a little over 500,000.
558.
And then after articles, budget, and snow and ice, we're around 35,000 left.
Yeah, it depends on the final snow and ice number
Ish.
and a couple other moving
Which
targets.
is exactly the concern, right? We've had this software before. It wasn't successful, so I'm not sure if it makes sense to spend money we don't have on it now. There's a lot of free resources from DLS that we can utilize. It takes a little effort and time to get to know them and learn them, but they're there and they're available to us for no charge. My other concern would be the ongoing cost, because at the meeting that this was discussed at, it was mentioned that ongoing cost would come out of free cash year after year. So obviously, town meeting has to appropriate that, which we can't do before it's certified. So my questions would be, what are we going to do if we don't have the free cash, or town meeting doesn't approve that? And I thought free cash wasn't to be used for ongoing expenses.
Is that a comment or a question?
Yeah.
Those
it was
are
a
questions.
Question, sure. You know, I think it would be something that you would have to build it into your budget. You know, you can't cash your checks before you have the money, so I think that wouldn't, using free cash year over year is not a responsible budget policy. If you've been bored by my presentations for the select board recently, you've seen that I've kind of told the story of how it's come to be for the town. So I would work with the select board to find a way to build it into the budget and sort of take it from there. And, we'd be ideally honoring that 2017 policy that says we're not using reoccurring expenses with non-reoccurring revenue.
I guess I would rather make sure that we're taking care of our employees and not cutting hours to cover a contract on a budgeting software that we can utilize free resources for then. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sir, I think you were up first.
How are you? Brad Hahn, 1 Brown Road, Townsend. A couple statements that were said. Honestly, if you can't add and subtract or use an Excel sheet in a budgetary sense, then I would suggest you don't do that. On the second standpoint, $41,599.79. When we have our police department being put in an article where we need a prop 2.5 to fund them, it's a slap in the face to those who serve our community. If we find money to budget this, but have to have them contingent on a 2.5 overhead. That's all I have to say.
Okay, comments come on the motion. Ms. Craven.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Kim Craven, 87 Lunenburg Road. I'm all for technology and advancements. I'm a bit hesitant on this article for a couple reasons. As Ms. Priest stated, there are some free but a little bit more tedious programs out there that you can use. We also have the document from the Collins Center that is free. It was given to us. It was forwarded from myself to at least 2 members of the current Board of Selectmen. That has not been used in the past few years. The other thing that I think is equally important is we are in the process of going to be hiring a new town administrator. Might be our current interim, might be somebody else. They might have experience with a different software. I also think that it's vitally important that we follow the procurement laws for something of this cost. We should be getting 3 bids, I believe, for something of this cost, not just 1 bid and a look at something else. The other consideration that I feel is really important, we're going to be low on free cash. We could push this to a fall town meeting to see where the budget sits and still be in the cycle for next year's budgeting time. I'm hopeful. Kelly talked about the efforts around the schools. I am doing my part for School FinCom to drive down the assessment for the town. Hopefully we do a little bit better. over the next few months, and maybe we're in a better position in fall town meeting, and that would still allow whoever the new town administrator is to get something in cycle for next year's budget. So I would just, ask for that consideration from the floor, that we don't do it right now, and just wait till fall special town meeting to maybe consider it then.
Comments come on the motion. Mrs. Lord.
Hi, Sandra Lord, Wells Hill Road. Some of my points have been answered already, and I really hope that people listen to what the FinCom has to say, that we have them for a reason. I'd like to see more research done on other possible systems. I think we're jumping the gun here, whereas our town is at a tipping point. So I would please ask people to consider that. We need more research on it. Let's not jump into, okay, let's get ClearGov. I mean, I heard something else about we already have some kind of system. We can't afford it. Thank you.
Comments come on the motion. Sir?
Jacek Mozanowski, 16 Alisa Drive. I would like to point out that Excel actually is a very powerful software package. I had to use it professionally for many years. However, for people who are not really well trained on that software, it may appear fairly simple. So I would suggest maybe to take into consideration, instead of paying for the software that is proposed here, maybe we could pay for advanced training on Excel for a few of town employees, and then they could use this software package, probably not much worse than they would be using what's offered here. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Quick question for town council. If council could opine on whether obtaining one quote and reviewing free options complies with the procurement law for a purchase of this magnitude, that would be great. Thank you.
Question comes on, I guess, the procurement issue. Mr. Costa?
Yes. Thank you, through you, Mr. Moderator. So I'm not sure it's within the scope of the article, but I'll respond. So generally speaking, service and supply contracts that exceed $10,000 but are under $50,000 require 3 written quotes, as opposed to lesser value contracts under $10,000, which simply require sound business practices, or conversely, contracts that exceed $50,000, which would typically require either an invitation for bids or a request for qualifications process. And so generally speaking, no multiple bids would be required. I made the comment that I'm not sure it's within the scope of the article because the article is proposing a transfer, but it's not actually implementing any sort of purchase. And so it's not unheard of for municipalities in anticipation of a purchase to seek town meeting authorization and then to follow the appropriate procurement process after the fact. I'll agree that it's unusual in the sense that this specifically calls out ClearGov as the supplier or the servicer, but that wouldn't invalidate the article, but the town would still be required to comply with all provisions of Chapter 30B that might be applicable.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Costa. All right, I think people have vetted their opinions. I think we're ready to vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 1, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. No. The noes have it. Article 2, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer the sum of $4,750 for professional actuarial services to conduct a retiree health insurance liability study for the town or take any other action relative thereto. Is there a motion?
Yep, Mr. Moderator, I move that the town transfer from free cash the sum of $4,750 for the professional actuarial services to conduct a retiree health insurance liability study for the town.
Second.
Okay, I'm going to, not that I have a problem with your making the motion, Mr. Meehan, but you're living in Townsend?
I do not.
Okay.
That would be helpful for the select board.
And you are a department head, but and I don't want to impede things, but it sort of goes against our practice to have, if it's in fact the select board doing it. But I'll let it go at this time. But
I was just going to give a point of order that Mr. Kieran is not a town resident, town voter, and he's employed here, and he knows what he's doing on this, but I protest that he shouldn't be making motions on anything.
I think this is something that's more vested in tradition than any specific rule, but
Mr. Moderator,
Ms. Schifrin.
I move that the town transfer from free cash the sum of $4,750 for professional actuarial services to conduct a retirees' health insurance liability study for the town.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded on Article 2. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Moderator, I have a presentation for this
Mr.
article.
Meehan. Yep.
Sure. Back again. Article 2, other post-employee benefits, OPEB actuarial study. Currently, Townsend is one of just a handful of cities and towns in the state of Massachusetts that does not offer retirement, other post-employee retirement benefits to its staff. The town is proposing, or the select board is proposing, that we hire an actuarial consultant to calculate the town's future retiree health insurance liability. This would be considered an OPEB obligation. Why it matters, helps the town understand the long-term financial obligations related to providing retirement benefits, health insurance, or potentially other pensionable type benefits to employees. The study is anticipated to take approximately 120 days. We would be, currently we're part of that 7% of the towns in the state of Massachusetts that do not offer these benefits to their staff. This would be very helpful for retention of staff and not just being a training ground for staff people to come and then depart. The study would be using free cash to complete, that review of what the liability could be to the town.
Okay, thank you. Comments come on the motion for Article 2.
Personal seller, South Harbor Road. I'm thinking about this, and I'm wondering who retirees need this. Half of the town employees are union. They have pensions. Who are we looking at?
Question comes on the motion.
Sure. So this is a study for all employees, so just because you're in a union doesn't always mean you get pensionable benefits. It'd depend on the agreement that the town has with that group. And there's also non-union personnel that love your town and work really hard, and this would be a benefit to keep them here and not just train them and have them leave.
Okay, comments come on the motion. And Ms. King.
As far as I think it's really important for us to provide the end result, to provide this benefit to our employees. We're one of the few towns in the state, I think there's only 4 of us, who do not provide post-retirement health. How many? 3?
It's 3 now.
It's down to 3. 3 towns out of 351 cities and towns in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that do not provide this benefit to their employees. I would call this one of the reasons why we start losing employees, because once they realize that and they understand that it's, when you get to be my age, you kind of need some insurance. And we don't, when you can't get it, but if you worked in Pepperell, you could get it. If you worked in any other town, except for whatever those other 2 are, or other 3 are, or whatever they are, you can move there even to get lower pay. The cost of health care after you retire will exceed any difference in pay. So the benefit is to get the heck out of Townsend and get a job somewhere else when you're approaching retirement. And we're losing staff every day. We're going to hear later on about how many staff we're losing in other departments. But getting this has been something that's been tried before. I think the last time we did the actuarial study, I think it was early 2015, and we didn't move forward. I think I still have a copy of that. I don't remember what the numbers were, but OPEB benefits are expensive. We have what's called an OPEB liability. Once we do this, and we're going to have a budget number that will come out of it, and it's not going to be pretty. It could be 6 digits, that we're going to have to fund this year after year in anticipation, because you have to have an account to pay for it in advance. So it is an expensive undertaking. But I've mixed feelings about this particular article over this. I mean, 4750, I mean, I was in favor of spending 41,000, you said no. So I don't know if I don't want to go against 4750, but it is going to be pricey later on. When we get the study, it's going to have a high price tag on it. Most likely, the only way I can see funding it is through an override, because this will be an ongoing expense year after year once we get the number from the study. And I do support, I think we definitely need a general override soon, because we're running out of ability to pay for anything. But if you anticipate, if we already know we're not going to support the cost of the retiree health care, then I would say, you know, we're wasting 4750 right now. But, so I just am explaining my perplexion. I'll vote for this, but I just think we, as a town, we need to understand some of the costs that we have coming for us. And I know we're going to be talking about the police, and they're going to have, there's a lot going on there too, that they have needs. But we need a general override, and it's kind of a little off this article, but this is what this is going to lead to. We need like $1 million general override very soon. We're that broke, and that's not being proposed anywhere. Okay, but yeah, okay, I'm done.
Good point. All right, thank you, Mr. King. Thank you, Mr. Marchand.
James Marchand, 10 Pearlbrook Road. This is to study, is this for a study?
Yes, sir. This is to study what it would cost.
Thank you. Right now, we need to know where we stand for this so that the town can make an informed decision on going forward with it. But right now, I am a retired police officer in this town. I serve this town faithfully and gladly and proudly for 35 years. However, if you're in public safety only, one of the benefits you have is to be able to retire at 55 years old. In doing so, that gives you 10 years. You have to, if you do that, you have to carry your own insurance for 10 years. In every other town but 3 in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, if I had worked for them, I would have had an opportunity to get insurance on retirement for that gap time. It's only for that gap time. That is a big issue on retention. And it's approximately $125,000 to post for a job, get resumes, interview, background checks, all the things you have to do, and get an officer through the academy just so he can get out in the cruiser on work. And it's over a year to do so. Well over a year. Therefore, one of the things where we're losing people is because if I'm a young fella starting out, all I got to do is get hired here, do a good job for 2 years or so, and not get in trouble. And I can go to any other town, and that's just one of the benefits of going to the other towns. Therefore, we are losing people. What are we down? 4, Chief? We're down 4 right now. And with things the way they are, the resumes aren't coming in like they used to. Used to have a stack of them. Now there's a lot less to choose from. So when you find somebody who's qualified, and we've got a good bunch out there right now, you got to keep them. And this is, and at least we got to know where we stand, so that we can see where we have, what we have to spend, and if we're going to spend it. But we got to know where we're going to stand for it first. And I think this would be, my own opinion, this would be a good place to start. Thank you.
Comments come on the motion. Ms. Priest.
Thank you. I think this is a really important benefit to offer to our employees, so I just want to make a quick point. We have this similar type of liability for our pension. We don't have to pay for that valuation every year because Middlesex County Retirement takes care of that and lets the town know their pension liability. For OPEB, we do have to pay for that. We don't need to prepay that amount of money. It is a liability. So if in the future something happens with the pension, we are on the hook for a certain amount of money, and this is very similar to that. So it's not really an upfront expense, and we don't always even necessarily have to set that aside into a restricted account. We just need to know what that is. We will have to do this valuation annually once that benefit's offered in order to have an unqualified audit. That's really important. But I think it's a very important benefit to offer to our employees. And oftentimes municipalities don't necessarily have it at the same rate. So if our employees are paying, 25%, it could be retirees pay 50%. There's some wiggle room in there as well. But my questions would be in implementing this, if we're doing this study now, what's our ultimate goal for when we would implement this, and how are we going to fund that?
Sure, yeah. So thank you for those questions. And to Ms. King's point, the town had done it, I think, in 2011 and then revisited it again in 2017. I have a copy of that report. I can't remember if it's the 2011 or the 2017, but the same group we're using now actually broke it out based on liability, so you could sort of see if the town did 50%, here's what the liability would be based on, they look at all the employees, the average age, and when the retirement threshold is, and then the insurance liability. So that's sort of how that makeup would go. How to fund it, there's probably a zillion ways to fund it. So I would probably chat with the select board and see what different avenues they want to go, and then allow the residents to opine and make a decision. Off the cuff, I know my community considered it and did not do it, so we're one of the three. The 93% is looking at the entire state, but there's also counties that don't do it out in Western Mass, so they're part of that bucket. Dunstable, where I live, doesn't do it because we looked at the number and we knew we couldn't afford it because we didn't have free cash that year, and that was sort of the idea, was to put the free cash into an escrow bucket and then keep contributing to it like a stabilization account when you could. That might be one strategy. Townsend could make their own decision as they see fit. So.
Okay, comments on the motion. But Don, make it quick, all right? We've got some other folks.
I just want to say, with all of the talk of cutting hours, not giving raises, and everything going on, I think that we owe it to our employees to at least look into this, and I think we can get really creative in the funding, whether it's looking at health insurance plans across the board and reducing that cost in order to fund the retiree portion as well. There are options, and I'm sure creatively we could come up with something, so I think it's a good investment in our employees right now.
Okay, comments come on the motion. Mr. Trucco?
Jacek Mozzanowski, 16 Alisa Drive. I would suggest that we refocus on the motion itself. The motion is really asking for money to conduct professional study and gain vital information. The question is, do we want to know? And my answer, yes, we do. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rideout.
Bill Rideout, 88 South Harbor Road. Move the question.
Okay. Motion's been made to move the question. Is there a second? Second. All right. I think we can do this just to wrap it up. All those in favor of moving the question, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. All right. The question is before you to vote on Article 2 on whether to, I believe it was to transfer from free cash $47.50 for the study. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. No. The ayes have it. Article 3, to see if the town will vote to establish a special purpose stabilization fund for the payment of legal services provided by town council, and to raise and appropriate or transfer the sum of $50,000 or any other sum thereto, or take any other action in relation thereto.
Mr. Moderator,
Ms. Sheffrin.
I move that the town establish a special purpose stabilization fund for the payment of legal services provided by town council, and to transfer from free cash the sum of $50,000 to said special purpose stabilization fund.
Second. Motion made and seconded. Anything to be said? Mr. Meehan?
Sure. Article 3, Town Council Trust. Ms. Schifrin asked for $50,000 from free cash. The goal would be to establish a stabilization fund for town council legal services. Why we're looking at this is the town is going to be working with our at least 3 or 4 union contract negotiations coming up in the next year or so. We are working through non-union personnel matters, so, as you look at potentially hiring a full-time TA and other contractual services for the town, this would be stuff, discussions you'd want to have with Labor Council to review those different merits of the contract. We are looking at various planning board, land use management type issues that also benefit from the use of town council to make sure we're adhering to different planning bylaws, stormwater management, things of that nature. And the town is also looking at various RFPs to be put out for bid for a variety of projects, and having town council review those and make sure we're adhering to proper legal manners are important. The nice side of a fund, a stabilization fund, is that if we don't spend it all this year, it remains available the following year. So it's sort of a strategy so that it, ensures the town some stability in the town council costs.
Okay, comments come on the motion. Ms. King?
Yeah, I disagree with this article. I don't think it's appropriate to put legal expenses into a stabilization fund. We've tried to have other stabilization funds. We almost have no capital stabilization fund anymore. We used to have multiple stabilization funds in order to make sure that we were fiscally responsible. But this just needs to be budgeted. And we can look at what our expenses have been. We can look at what these lists and what the expenses are going to be going forward. If we need money right now to supplement the budget for fiscal year 26 for what the legal expenses have been, then I'm all in favor of that, and properly budget for it as we're going to have our annual town meeting to talk about fiscal year 27. But I don't think it's appropriate to put legal service fees into a stabilization fund. That just doesn't make any sense to me. Thank you.
Okay, comments come on the motion? Yeah.
Dr. Christian Roman Ramirez, 172 Fitchburg Road. Mr. Moderator, I wish to hear FinCom's opinion regarding their hesitation on not recommending this article, if it is possible, because I have to agree with Ms. King on her point on that this is something that can be budgeted, and I just want to hear FinCom's recommendation on why they're not recommending this article so that we can do a informed voting justly on this article. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hay?
Yes, on this article, we did not see the motion. We only had the warrant article to read, so we couldn't make a determination where the money was coming from. The idea is very similar to what we're doing with the elections. We have money that is transferred into an account, so you don't see it in the budget. It has to be paid for, but again, as town administrator discussed, it is the ability to have that money not need to be budgeted year after year and wait for the free cash to be available to use it. So it's a little quicker to use. A stabilization fund does require a 2/3 vote to use the money, so we thought that was another way that the town has the ability to do it. But our recommendation, we had the free cash. We did not have the motion, so we didn't know where it was coming from, and that was why we didn't recommend. We didn't know where and how the impact would be, and we can't take a vote here. It's not a posted meeting, so we have to go with our recommendation of not recommending it because we didn't know where it was coming from at the time.
Okay, comments come on the motion. Ma'am?
Karen Raposa, 17 Balsam. 2 questions. What do we currently have for legal fees in our budget? And secondly, as many of us kind of revisit insurance annually, have we put efforts into revisiting, make sure we're getting the best value for our legal services?
Sure. So believe you guys, at your last town meeting, set aside $82,500 for legal service fees, and I believe you encumbered $10,000 from the previous year for, no? I'm seeing Veronica shake her head no at me, but.
There was an article in, I believe it was 2018, that was voted to put 20,000 in a fund. Am I on? 20,000 in a fund. Maybe it was more than that. I can't remember exactly. I think you might have been on the board, Cindy, when this happened, and it was one of the regular funds that you'll see. You'll see one later in this meeting that we put away at special town meetings or town meetings for things that different departments want, and we vote on it and we set that money aside. It's usually from free cash. And then we keep those articles alive, those accounts alive for longer than the term of the fiscal year. So we were going, and there was 10,000 left in that roughly when we came back in. And so we've been using it for union negotiations mostly this past year for legal advice. And we don't every year have union negotiations. And this is an unusual year in that we have 3 unions that we need to negotiate. So it would be good to have this. And we were advised to make it a stabilization rather than an account that apparently by rights at the end of every fiscal year, any money that isn't spent from those special town meeting articles should be swept back into the general fund if they're not expended. But as a town, we haven't done that. And so there is, I don't know, 20,000, 29,000 for sidewalks that we put aside in around 2007 along 119 that's never been spent and is still sitting there. I don't know, it's maybe 500,000? I don't know how much.
For unspent articles?
Of unspent articles? It's been a lot.
It's nearly 6 figures, and some of the articles are quite old. Some have intentions, and some, I think, may have just been pushed to the wayside. So it's something that, as a newbie in your town, I've sort of looked at some different ways to offset your deficits in a variety of ways, and check with those department heads if they're not going to do the project.
That's all you gotta do.
And then sweep it back into the general fund when we realize, hey, they're not doing the sidewalks. Let's bring this back to the regular bucket of money. So.
Okay, comments come on the motion. Anything further be said? Looks like we're ready to vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 3, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. No. The noes have it. Article 4, to see if the town will vote to appropriate the sum of $53,500 to fund a one-year collective bargaining agreement with the town's police bargaining unit, AFSCME, Council 93, Local 3470, fiscal year 2026. Said appropriation to be funded from available American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA funds, or take any other action relative thereto. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator,
Ms. Goodrich.
I move to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of...
No, to transfer from. Are we on Article 4?
4. Article 4.
Do you have the motion?
On the wrong page. Sorry, my bad. I move that the town appropriate for the sum... One second. Move that the town appropriate the sum of $53,500 to fund a one-year collective bargaining agreement with the town's police bargaining unit, AFSCME Council 93, Local 3470, for fiscal year 2026. Said appropriation to be funded from available American Recovery Plan Act, ARPA funds.
American Rescue Plan.
Rescue Plan Act. Everybody get that? You want me to repeat it?
Second.
I think we got it. It's in the warrant. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Article 4 is before you. Anything to be said?
Mr. Moderator,
Mr.
I have
Mann.
some slides to present. So folks, to give you some background on our Townsend's Police Department, they've been working very hard with the Select Board and Town Council for the last 18 months because they've been out of contract and working off fiscal 25 wages. The town has visited with a Collins Center salary analysis. We've identified within Article 4 how we can utilize the remaining wage ARPA funds the town has, which is right around $93,000-ish left in ARPA funds that are for wages. And I will present to you the next few slides in terms of what the makeup of those increases are for the collective bargaining agreement for 1 year. So Article 4 is for a 1-year vote, and essentially it would be the town voting to approve and support a 1-year agreement for the officers to receive their fiscal 26 wages. The reason why we would use ARPA funds to do that would be to get us more competitive within the, this is the average patrol officer salary by department. You can see here Townsend, based on this Collins Center study, is near the bottom of the salary scale based on average salaries. And to Mr. Marchand's point earlier, this will be very correlated to the retention the town is experiencing and the lack thereof. Your police department works 24/7. You have sergeant salaries that are well below the average area within our different marketplace. Groton, Ayer, Harvard, Lunenburg, Ashby, they're all higher than Townsend based on the average rate. And what warrant Article 4 is asking for is that Townsend fund a singular year agreement with the police bargaining unit to cover July 1, 2025 to June 30, 2026, to back pay the wages for those officers and also bring them up to the current wages that would get us to the end of the fiscal year. The reason why the math isn't perfect on this slide is because there's lag time. We've had we've lost a few officers since some of the warrant articles have come together. So, working with the police chief and the select board, we identified, a few more dollars that would be necessary with the increase due to that lag time and shift differential. So, this is sort of a chart that will help illustrate the differences in rates and where it will go from here. I'll only present warrant Article 4 now, and I know we have 5, which would be voting. If you approve warrant Article 4, that makes 5 available. If you don't, then 5 is moot. Happy to take questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Meehan. Comments and questions, Ms. King?
Yes, I strongly support the passage of Article 4. This is small money, and I want to, even though I don't always trust them, I do trust that the Board of Selectmen did a fair contract negotiation for this money, for Article 4. And I think it's also important for us to know that this is not coming out of the budget, this is ARPA money, correct?
If I may, so it's going to be ARPA money, and then it also includes a 4% increase for the salary for that year. So there is some remaining funds to be accounted for, because we basically did it from the start of the fiscal year to approximately, March 1st-ish, because again, there's lag time, and we were banking on a February town meeting, and obviously we got pushed, so that's why that 5711 is a little different than the 53.5 we were initially asking for. So there is remaining funds to be built into
So
the
we do, some of the money, a small amount of this money is coming out of the budget?
Yes, ma'am.
Or free cash? Free cash or the budget?
It's going to be in the budget. I see the chief nodding at me approvingly, so that means
Okay.
I remembered that correctly. So,
Okay, no matter what anybody thinks about the next article, this article is small money, and I strongly support it. And the numbers, the salaries, comparing our police officers to the other towns is disgusting. And we've lost, we have 4 openings, I understand, in the police department right now. And recently, 2 officers left for greener pastures. So we're going to be short officers for quite some time. So we need to do something to try to salvage our department. So I can't say, this article we absolutely need to pass. We can have a different conversation on the next one, but this one we definitely need to pass. Thank you.
Okay, comments come on the motion. Now, can I clarify before I recognize Ms. Craven? Was the final number 53.5 or was it a different number?
so the warrant article was written at 53.5. I wanted to make sure the math was as close to being perfect as possible. So you'll see 5711 there, and that's due to the fact that we had to reschedule the town meeting, and there has been shift changes, and there's been a change in officers. Some officers have decided to move on to other communities since we quoted the 53.5. So,
But the motion is for 53.
but the motion is for 53.5.
Okay.
Some will come in the budget.
Okay, so the difference will be made up from elsewhere? Okay, I just want to make sure of the number that we have in the motion. Ms. Craven?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My question might be for the next article. I just want to be sure that I'm clear, and this might be for the interim TA or for the chief. So, understanding that part of this will come from ARPA, part will come from the budget, the 4% increase is going to stand and go forward with or without the override. What I'm not tracking totally is what happens with that if the override doesn't go through. So can you or the chief just explain that, so that if this passes, what happens if the next one doesn't pass? Where does that other money come from in the future?
Yeah, so it would involve a budget build-out. If I had ClearGov, it might be easier, but that's my parting shot there. But if you vote Article 4 and you don't vote Article 5, based on the way the agreement's written, the wage increase that would be expected in fiscal year 27 would be 4%, because there's union rights there. So we would build the budget based on 4% and go from there. So I don't know if that completely answered your question, and perhaps Chief Sartell may know something else that I'm not thinking of to mention.
Okay, Chief?
Sure. To answer Ms. Craven's question directly, it would just be cannibalizing our fiscal 27 budget for that 4%, which is what would happen if that was the outcome. I feel remiss not to mention a couple things. One is I really do appreciate the fact that we had a very collegial meeting with our union. The union met with the town approximately 13 or 14 formal times. Our informal meetings were probably the same amount, so I do really express that appreciation there. There was a lot of work that went into this contractual agreement for sure, and there's multiple moving parts, making it very difficult, so I do appreciate the patience as it comes to that.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Comments come on the motion. Ms. Craven, the follow-up?
Just as follow-up. So they would definitely get the 4%, no matter what, whether the next one passes or not. Your budget just suffers in FY '27?
Yeah, that's correct. Basically, what you do is, passing this article, is you instill a new pay rate, which I would then use to compile my budget for fiscal '27. Believe it or not, I had to put together seven budgets for fiscal '27 to cover all my responsibilities and all the different things that could happen. It was very much a choose-your-own-adventure type of thing with my budgeting this year, if you catch my drift, for those of you that remember that. But yes, it would change the pay rates for fiscal '27, so that 4% stands no matter what. That would be the new rate of pay for the officers.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Comments come on the motion. Anything else to be said? Appears we're ready to vote. All those in favor of the motion on Article 4, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. It's unanimous. Well, I think I heard one. It is, the ayes have it. Article 5, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $327,000 for the purpose of funding a collective bargaining agreement with the town's police bargaining unit, AFSCME, Council 93, Local 3470, for fiscal year 2027. Such appropriation to be contingent upon approval by the town's voters at the ballot of a Proposition 2.5 override, so called under General Law, Chapter 59, Section 21C(G), or take any other action relative thereto. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator.
Ms. Kell.
I move that the town raise and appropriate the sum of $197,000 for the purpose of funding a collective bargaining agreement with the town's police bargaining unit, AFSCME Council 93, Local 3470, for fiscal year 2027. Such appropriation to be contingent upon approval by the town's voters at the ballot of a Proposition 2.5 override under Mass General Law, Chapter 59, Section 21CG. Second.
Motion's made and seconded. It is before you. Any comments or questions? Ms. King? Sure.
May I do my
If
little
Mr.
presentation
Meehan just
first?
could explain a little bit first about why we're...
So similar to warrant Article 4, except this is, it's a different level of increase for the officers. And if you're remembering back to the slideshow where we're bottom of the barrel in terms of where we are for competitiveness for salary and retention, this is the AFSCME union, police officers union, working with the town to essentially adjust the wages to be more competitive, to retain officers, and to, in general, solidify the department that is, just this past week received another resignation letter. So again, we worked very hard with the unions to get to an agreement. The context is it's 10%. They're looking for a 10% wage adjustment plus 4%, and this will bring them up to a more competitive marketplace. We believe it'll help retain officers, and why this is important. And I'm going to jump ahead a couple slides here. You'll see sort of what the impact of an override is on the annual tax bill. And to Mr. Marchand's point earlier, Townsend invests roughly $125,000 to recruit, train, and bring on new officers. He's 100% correct when they will stay for 2 years and a few months and then move on to another community that might offer more competitive salary. He's right. So I think that's an important thing to be mindful of when you think of the impact of a 2.5 prop override.
Comments come on the motion. Ms. King?
Yes, on this article, I strongly recommend that we pass this override. Over the last several years, that we've been asked for a number of overrides. I think this is the smallest one we've been asked for. Slightly on the sidebar, I think we need a bigger override, but this is on this article and this article only. This is, we're not being asked to do much. Yes, it's an override, but the cost of this, given the cost of training an officer, the cost of keeping our officers, is about the same. This is about the cost of one officer that they're asking us to pay for, but splitting it up between all of them to keep them here, to try to make an attempt to keep our officers in Townsend rather than just a revolving door. And because that's what we have right now. They have a critical shortage over at the department. We as a town can't sustain this, and we cannot sustain a police department at the salaries. We saw the chart a few slides ago that showed us in comparison with the other towns. This is a small ask. That's horrible, that's embarrassing. And who would even apply to come here? There's a lot of good police training programs out there, and we really should be getting the best officers. I think Fitchburg State has an academy, basically, where you get a master's degree out of it. We're not going to get those officers. I think we might have one or two, but we're just not going to get them to come and stay. They are in high demand in other departments to get that level of training before they hit the streets. And this is, as far as overrides go, this is very small ask. And as I hate to repeat myself, but it's not asking us to pay more than what it would cost for one officer. That's the cost. That's all. And I think that we really should support this override. Thank you.
Comments come on the motion. Chief Sartell?
Yeah, I'd like to be recognized if I could, Mr. Moderator.
You're recognized, Department Head.
Just a few comments about, just to let you know that this wasn't just about money. There were some significant management gains in this bargaining session. Among them, much more clear probationary standards, which would allow us to relieve a recruit from duty should they not make grade. Very much an appreciated thing. Reimbursement provisions for if officers leave early, reimbursing us for some of the training costs, what we have currently in place is not nearly effective. We did also maintain some authority over assignments and operations and improved our ability to schedule officers with some flexibility that will allow us to support staffing that we feel is relevant. So this wasn't just we looked at one thing to fix this recruitment issue. We looked at a bunch of things. One thing I will also add is that the experience matters for sure. This isn't really about leading the pack by any stretch of the imagination. It's about instilling a pay scale that allows us to retain officers. The most effective and efficient recruitment standard is retaining the officers you have without any question. We feel as though this actually strikes at this issue from a number of directions and not just in the wallet. I appreciate the time. Thank you.
If I may jump on that from the chief's points, it's fiscal year 27, there is a wage adjustment. Fiscal year 28, the agreement's at 2%. So it's less than the Prop 2.5, limit that we see our taxes increase. So fiscal year 28, we were making an adjustment and then carrying forward. And that was part of the agreement that I think was tremendous for the, select board as well as the police union folks to come together on.
Okay, sir?
Brad Hahn, 1 Brown Road. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the uniformed officers, Chief Sartell, those that are here in the front row that are not in uniform, and all those that have served in this community. Thank you so much for your time. It's pitiful that we weren't able to get you this money sooner. With that being the case, I'd like to ask for the 197 versus the 327 that I'm seeing. What's the number that we're going for?
197.
Okay. I'd like to make an amendment to this article. Is there a formal process to do that?
You can make a motion to amend. You have to have it seconded, and it has to be put in writing.
So can I verbalize that first and then go for the second? And if it is, I can put it in writing?
Sure.
Might save me some time with the hand. So with that being the case, I'd like to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $197,000 for the purpose of funding a collective bargaining agreement with the town's police bargaining unit for fiscal year 27. I'd like to end it there. We deserve, as a community, to have this police force, our selectmen, our leadership. I challenge you guys to find a way to make it right for them and to get them up. These rates that I'm seeing, pitiful. And again, I thank you guys for staying on board. Can I get a second from someone?
Second.
Thank you. Where would you like me to write this?
Mr. Mayotte will help you with that. Now, I think while that's being written, perhaps the town's administrator or the select board or finance can comment on why this was contingent on a Prop 2.5 and perhaps explain why, because it's not apparent to me why the original amount of 327 went down to 197.
Sure. So that was me doing math and then sharpening my pencil because I was under the gun to get the number into the warrant article. And then I worked with the police chief and our select board to make sure I understood the numbers correctly. So that's mostly my error, but then also doing the math and working together with the police chief and the union folks to make sure we had the right number for town meeting. And that's why the motion number is different than the warrant article.
Okay, thank you. Now, as to the implications for Prop 2.5, because I'm sure that has implications for the budget. Ms. Kell?
If this is not a 2.5. Can't hear you, Veronica.
Be closer.
If this is not a 2.5 override, it means that we have to find the funds within the budget. And we've been working on the budget for quite some time. The budget that it's still a working budget, and at this point, we retain all staff. We do have a hiring freeze, so we aren't hiring positions that are left, but the funds would have to come from somewhere, just know that. So you have to think about what it is that the town is willing to give up in order to fund an additional $197,000 in the budget. I guess that's it. I mean, right now, I think we have 897 to the good, $897 to the good, something like that. And so that would put us in the hole by about $196,000. It is, sure, it could be done, but it has other implications in town. Just know that.
Yeah, I would echo what Ms. Kell said there, and then we'd also, to another resident's point earlier, we would be having to use free cash much more substantially than I currently look to do for the town for this coming budget cycle. We'd also be in the same situation come the following year, because we would have used free cash or reduction in other staffing in order to make this up, and that permanent raise is permanent, and you'd be continuing to find free cash down the road in order to put it into effect. Yeah, it's a tricky one, but...
Could I make a quick point? I understand it put us in a hole. What about them? They've been in a hole. So I think as a community, we could find a place to make sure that we invest into our police. You just said it. We're losing people. I don't know about you guys. I don't want to lose anybody else. This is a great staff we have here. If you don't believe so, I challenge you to get up and walk out of the room. But it's ridiculous. They've been working on 2025 numbers, and we selected this leadership, and I'm sorry for that.
Comments come on the motion, and I'm going to reread the motion to amend. I'm going to make a little codification change here, too. All right, because this is a motion to amend, it's not a principal motion. So it should be, I move that we amend the motion on Article 4 to state, Article 5, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $197,000 for the purpose of funding a collective bargaining agreement with the town's police bargaining unit for fiscal year 2027. Without any provisions for contingency on a Prop 2.5 override, okay? That isn't stated, that's just the new motion. So the motion's been made and seconded. Who was the second? Ms. Stockwell? Okay, the motion to amend is before you. Ms. Priest.
Thank you. I echo every sentiment about funding this contract. It's hard to say if an override's a way to do it, obviously, because we, the public, haven't seen the budget yet, and so we don't know what it would look like to try to find that money. But a couple of questions. Do we have anything budgeted into the budget for increases for them as it stands, or is it fully funded by an override at this point? And is fiscal 28 set up to absorb the next increase at this point? And my understanding is the police union requested this as an override, so if we could maybe hear why that was from them, that may help too.
Okay, comments come on the motion to amend.
Okay, Julia Stockwell, 203 Lunenburg Road. I just have a question. So if the override passes tonight, what is going to be the new, it's not going to be Proposition 2.5 anymore. What will it be?
I think to clarify what you're asking, Julia, is that if this motion passes, because this is not an override now, the motion to amend is simply to approve this 197 without an override.
Without the override, okay. That's fine.
But it's also worth noting we haven't presented the town's budget, so right, there's also some consideration for the entirety of the budget to be presented. So you'd be circumventing the annual town meeting process to approve the budget as a whole for the town.
That's a good point, because the idea behind this is that the town doesn't have enough money, correct me if I'm wrong, to appropriate, doesn't have money to appropriate for this contract. And so by dealing with it now and then voting on the override, the town would know whether or not there is enough money to actually put this in the budget for fiscal year 27 at the annual town meeting. It's a good procedural question as to what happens if this is just voted to be put in the budget before we're even actually voting on the budget.
because if the budget fails, you've got to rebuild it.
Right. So, Ms. Stockwell, do you have some further?
I still need clarification, okay? If we're limited to 2.5, Proposition 2.5 for our budget, and we do an override, what will be the new percentage? It increases now by a certain percentage, because we now we would be approving an override.
No, again, right now, we're just talking about the motion to amend, okay?
Okay.
So that would eliminate the idea of an override.
Okay.
Okay? So let's talk about what happens if we have an override vote if this motion doesn't pass, because...
That still doesn't answer my question, though. Like I said.
We may not have an answer for it, Julia. I'm sorry.
So, Miss with the star sweater, the estimated tax increase, if you did an override for $197,000 in excess of, the assessed values up here on the left-hand side?
Don't give me the assessed value. Give me the percentage, because that'll be forever now, until you'll never go back to the 2.5.
Yeah, use the microphone.
The percentage, then it'd be 1% or whatever percentage of $450, if that's what your home's value was, and that's what your increase would be, $54. So
That's not
it's a variable number, so.
If I can understand what your question is, it's 2.5 every year.
Yes.
We can't, it won't change what we can increase next year. It's just for this FY27. So next year, we'll be bound by 2.5. The year after that, we're still bound by 2.5. Anything more than that, we would have to come back to the voters.
Okay, my understanding is that a debt exclusion is for the amount of the debt, and it doesn't increase the amount of the Proposition 2.5. But I've always understood that an override increases the tax evaluation from 2.5 to whatever the override is.
It would be more than 2.5 this year, but then it goes back to 2.5 next year, because that's the levy limit that the...
I thought it stood forever. Once you do it...
So the number goes up this year, then it compounds on the 2.5 next year, and next year, and next year.
You're right, I think, Julia, that it stays in that increase in the levy limit.
That's right.
Okay, and then next year, we can increase it 2.5% above whatever was increased by a Prop 2.5 increase. All right, I'm not sure, I think Ms. King was waiting before you.
Okay, I still support the override, but we're not talking about that. I think that, I really have a concern with this amendment, only because if we're only voting on the police budget for collective bargaining agreement to be $197,000, that means to me that we're voting for the entire police budget for salary budget for fiscal year 27 to be $197,000, which I don't, we're going to pay them each $10 a piece. This doesn't, I think that there's a real legal problem with this amendment. To me, I think we're better off rolling the dice on the override, and because this is the collective bargaining agreement, the select board have got to go back to either the negotiating table or something if an override doesn't pass to figure out how we're going to do that, and I'm getting a nod from Ms. Cal, and or try to find $197,000 in the budget as they're still trying to, because we're not, May 5th, I think, is the date of the town meeting, and that's when the budget is going to be presented to us, and it's going to go through a number of changes between now and then. And I think that they already know, which I think many of us do know, that we don't have enough money to sustain the town anyway, whether it's this or the next thing. And I keep saying we need an override for other things, but I'd rather roll the dice right now and advocate strongly that we pass this as an override. I think the police do deserve this money, and it's not much money.
Then why go to an override?
And I support, I don't like the way they did this either. I don't like the way they did it, but that's what we got. And I don't think it's too much to ask for us to fund this collective bargaining agreement for, it's small change. And like I said earlier, it's right about the cost of one officer.
I do too.
When you think about the training and the numbers that the chief gave us. So I'm not in favor of this amendment. I don't think it really makes sense. I support your point. I do support everybody's point. But everybody's point, I understand the point, but I don't think this amendment really solves the problem. It can complicate it more, and I'd rather roll the dice on the override question. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Hahn?
Just a couple quick points. Kelly, I know you were before me. I'm just going to make a couple quick points.
No problem.
First and foremost, when we put critical infrastructure, EMS, emergency services, first responders, and we put them up to an override, which I think I can speak for the entire community, we don't want to see. Okay? I never want to be standing between someone and dinner time. I certainly don't want police standing between me and override and then the police department. There's no way we should be doing that. So with May 5th being the time when you need to present that, put something else to override. Don't put something as important as this, because these are the people that take care of us and our families. I like how fast that phone gets answered when I call. I don't want to see 2 more police officers leave and I don't get the response that I need. And I don't think anybody in here does either. So that's the only reason why I'm saying find something else to put to an override. Don't put such key critical infrastructure to an override. There's plenty of other things you could find. Or let's just be a little bit more fiscal responsible moving forward.
All right. Folks, Ms. Kelly.
Kelly, 5 Taurus Lane. So I support the new contract. I believe these officers deserve what they're asking for. As someone who has advocated for overrides before, I don't have faith in this community. I'm hoping that with it being the police, that maybe we'll finally pass an override. If it does not pass, and I saw on one of the slides what happens if it fails, it would have to go back to negotiations.
Right.
Can the select board commit that if it goes back to negotiations, that at maximum you'll reduce the contract by $1? We want the police funded. The community wants the police funded. I do not like the idea that they will have to, if the override fails, that they will have to come back and take a hit for the community. I understand that if it fails, we have to find the money somewhere else, and I'm not saying any positions are worth more than others in this town, and it's really hard to vote on an override without seeing the overall budget to know what the impact would be. But if the override fails, I do not want to see their contract substantially changed. And that's, I don't know how to get a commitment, and I know, you probably can't discuss negotiations at this point, but if it's anything more than $1, then we're doing wrong by the officers. Thanks.
Okay, comments come on the motion. I don't know if there's anything from the FinCom on this article.
Sorry. We had nothing. As far as this article goes, we support it. We support it being the override going in, because if we don't do it with the override, there's $197,000 that would have to come out of the budget somewhere else. So we're just moving it from police to somewhere else within the budget.
Okay.
We support funding the contract, and we thought the override was a number, and it fit the requirements from last year of tell me what I'm voting an override on.
Okay. Ms. Craven, and then Town Council, I think you wanted to comment?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So I think we have a unique situation where the police union did ask us to put this in as an override. And I'm not speaking for Ms. Priest, but I think that you have 3 people at this juncture that are typically vocal about not having an override, in strong support of the override, and Kelly, who is always a strong supporter of an override, in support of the override. So you've got strong support for the override. I think we also have a fail-safe that the override comes before town meeting, so that if it doesn't pass, hopefully good things continue to happen in other budgetary areas, that there's some relief, and that maybe we can recover something. I don't know if it would be that much, but I do have some faith that this year, that if any override is to pass, it is this year. And what I worry about is if we don't get out there and get this override to pass, we're going to be in a worse situation next year, and we'll be laying off even more people. So I would like to take the risk and roll the dice and let the folks that are loud, and I'm one of them, get out there and support this for our police so that we have some flexibility in our budget moving forward. I think it's the only way possible and practical to get this done. So they have my full support to be loud to get this passed.
Comments come on the motion, and I think, Town Council Costa, were you trying to get my attention? there?
I was, Mr. Moderator, only just to offer a gentle reminder that we're only debating the amendment and not the main motion, and I mentioned that only because the question was asked of the FinCom what its position was, and it indicated that it supported the motion, but of course, we're not debating the motion.
Right. I noticed that. We're debating the motion to not have the override. The FinCom, I think, stated that they supported the override, right, Mr. Hayes? Right. Yeah. Mr. Rideout.
Bill Rideout, 88 South Harbor Road, move the question.
Okay, motion made and moved the question and seconded. So cut off debate. All those in favor of moving the question, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no. The ayes have it. So this is moving the question on just the motion to amend, all right? So all those in favor of the motion to amend the motion on Article 5, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. No. The noes have it. The main motion is before you, and I think we've pretty much mapped out the parameters to that situation. So is there anything more to be said on the main motion, which is to appropriate $197,000 contingent on a Prop 2.5 override? Yeah.
Jacek Muzanowski, 16 Alisa Drive. Let me try to adjust microphone a bit. So I hope everybody agrees, and it does not need to be repeated, that we have to pay our town employees fair wages. And I think that's understood. Now, many people complain about increase in the cost of living. Retirees complain about Social Security adjustment. Business owners complain about increasing costs. We all complain about costs in a store, doing grocery shopping. And we are all correct. Costs increase, they go up. We pay more for different things. Some of us receive additional money, pay increase, Social Security adjustment, even if it's not sufficient for many of us. And pretty much there is no choice. Prices of almost everything keep going up. But somehow, when it comes to our town employees, every override proposal so far was voted down. I talked about this before. Inflation vastly increases, was vastly higher than increases in pay, because we are limited to 2.5%. So somehow, I guess, there is magical belief that our town employees, teachers, police officers, and town employees, they are somehow immune for price increases that we all face. So we did agree in this town to pay 1% surcharge for Community Preservation Act. What this motion is asking for is actually just about the same, if not less. That's reality. So we really should pay fair wages. We are the employer of our town employees. And if we try to pretend otherwise, it's just not fair. Thank you.
Okay, comments come on the motion. Mr. Rideout.
Yeah, sorry to be repetitive. Bill Rideout, 88 South Harbor Road, move the question.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and moved and second. Move the question. This will cut off debate on Article 5. All those in favor of moving the question say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. It is before you, the motion on Article 5, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $197,000 for purpose of funding collective bargaining agreement with the town's police bargaining unit, contingent upon the approval of the town's voters at a ballot of the Prop 2.5 override. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. No. Okay. I'm going to defer because I didn't double check. Majority or a two-thirds vote?
Majority.
Majority. The ayes have it by a majority. Article 6, to see if the town will vote to authorize the select board, and I'm going to, with your permission, omit reading the rest of this article. It is to lease fields for the Townsend Ashby Youth Soccer Association. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator?
Ms. Schifrin?
Paper. I'm sorry. I move that the town authorize the select board to enter into a 50-year lease agreement with the Townsend Ashby Youth Soccer Association for the use of certain town-owned land known as open space parcels of Squanicook Meadows, shown on assessor's maps as map 11, block 35, lots 0, 21, and 22, and map 11, block 32, lot 0, consisting of approximately 40 acres, more or less, as described in a deed recorded with the Middlesex South District Registry of Deeds in Book 41569, page 181, excluding the water well test field shown as fields or as the well field or as existing wells, including the 400-foot radius therefrom, located on Mason Road in West Townsend, Massachusetts, on such terms and conditions as the Select Board may deem appropriate.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? All right, I am going to ask Ms. Churchville.
Do you want me to present a quick synopsis of the purpose here? Is that okay with folks? Or I don't have to?
I think it's fairly evident, so if we need further clarification, Mr. Meehan, I certainly would call on you. And I do have a question, but I'll ask Ms. Churchville.
Ms. Craven.
You want to defer? Okay, Ms. Craven. You were closer, but she was on her way down, so.
Thanks. Kim Craven, 87 Lunenburg Road. I'm going to speak really quickly to the slide that the interim TA has up. So with regard to this warrant article and the benefits that he has listed there with maintaining open space, the deed itself actually protects that. It was a open space development under the planning board with the development of Horseshoe Drive, and it is perpetual open space for Squanicook Meadows and Holly's Playground. The worry for me and why I'm going to propose an amendment to this is a perpetual lease for 50 years, which is not there. So to enter into a new 50-year lease, there is no 50-year lease now. Long-term leases can trigger some things. It can be seen as a transfer. It can trigger some things around Article 97. It can also trigger some things around 30B. So in talking with folks with TESA and coming up with a friendly amendment to give the most flexibility to the town, to organized sports, to recreation, I would like to propose an amendment to amend Article 6 and inserting in place thereof to authorize the Select Board to enter into a non-exclusive use agreement, license, permit, or short-term lease arrangements for each term to not to exceed 10 years with youth organizations, recreation groups, and others, community users, provided that such agreements preserve some municipal oversight, guaranteed continued public access, and ensure the land is available for broad recreational purposes and organized youth sports, serving the residents of the inhabitants of the town of Townsend, as so stated in the deed conveyed as part of the open space residential development related to Horseshoe Drive, containing approximately 40 acres, more or less, as is described in the deed recorded in Middlesex South Registry of Deeds in Book 41569, page 181, excluding the well test field, shown as the fields, and the well field located on Mason Road in West Townsend, Massachusetts. This would allow negotiations for the youth soccer leagues to continue to move forward with the great work that they're doing. The fields look great. It also allows for policies and processes to be put in place to afford the most flexibility with grants. I know that is a concern. For those of you that don't know, I write a great number of grants. I've done an extensive analysis on the grants that could be available with different arrangements that would support what they're doing, some that support even more municipal oversight, that soccer could still have precedent, but that they would have the ability to get grants that still have municipal control. I certainly won't read all of them, but there's a great many of them that would be afforded to the community and to the league. For some that are just applicable to this area, because it is protection of the use of open space and recreation and the turtles. So animal rescue protection and placement, land and water protection, and habitat restoration. The Community Foundation of North Central Mass allows it to be 501c3s and municipalities. Park, which is through the Massachusetts Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, requires a level of town ownership, and the town must lead those applications.
Ms. Craven?
And those are up to $500,000. So there was concern in the discussions of this that if it wasn't a lease, that they wouldn't be eligible, but they would be eligible with permits and licensing, and that's what Westford and Wellesley and Lexington and other municipalities have gone to. It's relevant because there was worry that if it wasn't a lease, they wouldn't be eligible, but there's a lot that the board could do. So this affords the greatest latitude.
Hold, Mr. DeVos has a point of order.
Yes. Oh, good point.
Yeah, that's
Yes,
a good point.
good point.
If you're going to make the motion and then argue about it,
Yes.
if it's been seconded. Is there a second?
Is there a second?
All right, motion's been seconded. Thank you, Vin, it's a good point, and I was lax on that situation. All right, I think, Ms. Craven, you've articulated fairly well the benefits of your proposed amendment. Now I want to recognize some other people. Ms. Churchville.
Are we going to vote on the amendment?
It's before you to debate. Now that the motion's been made, then we will vote on it.
On the motion?
Right, on the motion.
The new motion.
The motion to amend is before you now to debate.
License, okay.
Well, it would be for any, it's comprehensive, so it would give it...
Yeah, let's use the microphone so people at home can hear and everybody else can hear.
I did give the motion to Harrison, but my motion does not limit it to a lease agreement. It gives broad latitude to the town and to the organization to talk about whether it's a permit or a license that doesn't trigger anything with Article 97, which is open space, and it doesn't trigger anything around 30B, that it gives them the broadest latitude so that they can look at all opportunities to get the most, because they're doing great work, but so that they can get the most out of it, because there's some limitations that if it's leased,
they would not be able to afford themselves to some other grants. So that's nuanced, that they can work on all avenues so that they can get the most amount of grant money and still do what they're doing, but just with the greatest latitude, totally.
I just want to know where we stand with the motion.
We're talking about the...
Okay, I want to ask the selectmen, because they brought this motion forward and they haven't had a chance to speak, and see how this affects their plans.
Moderator, I'd like to hear from TESA, please.
Okay,
The amendment that was just made.
Townsend Ashby Youth Soccer? Okay, if you would.
Hi, Selena Thomas, 99 Warren Road. So TESA is not fully in favor of this change, in part or mostly due to the 10 years that was mentioned. TESA has put a lot of work into the fields as they exist. We've also been working quite a number of years on getting some more field space put in. We've been working with the state, we've been working with National Heritage about the wildlife species there. We've been working with the town. We feel that a 10-year lease is not long enough. The amendment to change it from a lease to a lease or a license or any of those, that wording sounds fine, but the 10 years of the amended article, TESA would end up putting a lot of money and time. We've already put a lot of time into doing this. So to just have a 10-year lease, we feel that that isn't fully enough to make it worthwhile. Thank you.
Okay, comments come on the motion. Ms. Kell?
I would just like to note for the town's information that TESA currently has, they are in the second 3-year term of a lease that we did an RFP on. I'm trying to figure out the dates, probably around 2021 timeframe. 2020, the first 3 years. We've just signed the second 3 years in 2025, I believe it was. And the agreement that they currently have with the town allows them to have an additional first right of refusal for another 3 years. So TESA is the current leaseholder for that property. They requested a longer lease because they are hoping to make improvements to that field. And because that area is all priority habitat, it takes a lot of agreements between several organizations to get that done. And they came to the town asking for a 50-year lease. So I'll just defer to TESA from there, but you should be aware that there is a current lease on that property.
Mr. Hahn?
1 Brown Road, Townsend. So I'd love for a little bit more open discussion for transparency. Can you help me understand the history behind this? It's my understanding that this property was donated by Mr. Craven, is that correct?
It was the required open space of the Horseshoe Drive development, and Mr. Craven was the developer.
Okay. So with that being the case, what is the concern? You've mentioned multiple times because of the turtle and the habitat, this is already going to be under some scrutiny and jurisdiction for any changes that they want to make in the future through National Heritage. I would imagine if there's turtles there, there's some wetlands. Can anybody confirm that?
It's the headwaters of the Squanicook River.
Okay. Similarly, I've just heard that there's been a lot of money that's been dumped into the fields by this organization. Once again, I believe it's a 503c organization, correct? So there's been a ton of funds that they've already put in that's already elevated the value to this town in being one of our properties. Additionally, I would like to address the concern that this organization that is extremely well run is one of the bright spots within the community, along with Townsend Ashby Youth Baseball and Softball. And I think because of where that's located, we can see it has clear visibility as to the upgrade that it's brought to the town by having these 503c youth programs and how the benefit's been here. So what my question is very direct. What is the concern with the previous article as it was already written? Because it seems to me like if they were to walk away from those fields, correct me if I'm wrong, we can't fund the police. How are we going to maintain those fields and keep them operational? And then how are we also going to be able to monetize those fields for Park and Rec if you got kids running around in there with grass up to their knees? There's a lot of liability here. I fully support moving away from this amendment and sticking with it originally written. Thank you.
Comments come on the motion? Ms. Craven, and then Ms. Stockwell. Ms. Craven.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moderator. So there's some clear things in the deed itself, that the deed is for the benefit of the inhabitants of the town of Townsend. So not to split hairs, TESA is Ashby and Townsend. And when you get into 50-year leases, there are complications, and there's a lot of case law around that. And when there's a lease, instead of the flexibility of a permit or a license, it actually excludes the user of the field from grants. So the language of a lease actually excludes the sports organization from grants, and I can show you that there has to be a level of municipal control. And when the language is changed from a lease with direct control, it's just nuance, and so the amendment allows more flexibility for our town to negotiate with TESA around these nuanced pieces. The other concern around a 50-year is we actually have another youth sports organization. Not to say that TESA would, because they're doing an amazing work, but this is another generation that's going to outlive all of us that are doing this. But that organization that isn't under a lease right now, but is actively using fields, actually lost their designation in the state. They were administratively dissolved. And so there are things that happen. I don't think it's going to happen with this board, but that literally the term lease will exclude them from some of the grant funds. So that is a concern. So does it, the town meeting vote could hurt them, and the town, the select board can actually go longer than 10 years without a town meeting vote. So they could go up to 30 years. I suggested 10, but they could go longer without our vote. And the nuance of the language would actually help TESA and not hurt them. So if they're afraid of 10 years, but they've been doing 10 years with the extensions now, and it seemed to be working okay with them.
All right, I'm going to ask leave of the meeting to ask a question, because this is, and if you want, I will step down and ask the deputy moderator to step in. But my question is quite frankly, will the youth of Townsend be able to go and play on these fields, or are they going to be locked up like the baseball fields at Pheasant Field are?
They are putting a fence.
And therefore, the kids can't go out there and play. Now, I know that can have an impact on maintenance, but that's my question, and...
That's not an accurate depiction. I'd love to be able to speak to that. That is not an accurate depiction.
So
well,
I can answer that as...
all right, I'm going to step down. Mr. Rahala, would you take over the chair?
You guys are putting a fence. It's a rail to make it so players are... Am I allowed to answer the question, or not yet?
I'll let Mr. Rahala recognize you. I might not get recognized. He will fall asleep up there anyway.
Gotta get your steps in.
That's not what I'm doing, so.
Yeah, I'm moving. Accessibility.
The floor recognizes moderator John Barrett.
I'm going to defer, thank you, Mr. Moderator, I'll take my turn. And
Use the microphone.
Yeah, come on, moderator.
all right, now that I've sort of made a total mess of all this,
Okay.
I'm told that the baseball fields are actually only locked from November 1st to April 1st because of the conditions. So that modifies me somewhat. And so my question is just, would that be the same situation with the soccer fields? Because I feel that it's a problem that we don't have enough fields for kids to play, and I'll defer to your statement that that's when they're open, but there are some times in November you could still play ball. But anyway, thank you, Mr. Moderator, and I'll take my questions offline, the answer offline.
Okay, Selena Thomas, 99 Warren Road. The Tesa Fields are never closed. There is a gate across the roadway to keep cars out of the field area. We had an issue where somebody drove and did donuts on the field and did a lot of damage. So there is a gate across the driveway that you can easily walk around. Many people do park their cars on the driveway in and then walk in. There are trails also that part of what Tesa is hoping to do is put up signage so that people know where these trails are and they can stay on the designated trails and not interfere with habitat. But we also have people that come when soccer is not there, and they'll come and play baseball on the soccer fields. Anybody is welcome to walk in. We ask that people respect the property.
Comment comes as part of the question being answered.
Hi, Kelly, 5 Tourist Lane. So, listening to this, it seems that Tesa is open to the change in language, and correct me if I'm wrong, the objection is to the 10 years. Is there a reason, Kim, based on your grants and all of that, that 10 is preferable? Is there a reason that why Tesa is picking 50? I mean, I'll be close to 100 years by the time that lease is up, so I do understand. I see both sides where Tesa does not want to commit massive financial resources and time to something that is somewhat temporary. I recognize what you're saying about the grants and wanting to make sure we're using the best opportunity. Is there some middle ground? I don't think there was any objection to the change in language. It seems to me that the only objection was whether or not 10 versus 50, and can we find a compromise here on the floor, something that Tesa would be comfortable with, and maybe the Craven family would be comfortable with, or you, or anybody. Okay, that's it.
So, Mr. Rahal, can I answer that?
I'd like to go to the next person in line.
Okay.
There is 2 lines, Gene, by the way.
I understand that.
Okay, so the reason that Tesa is asking for 50, when this all came up, I was working on trying to get grants to fund our field expansion and all the work that goes along with that. And I was being told repeatedly from different grant funders that the 3-year lease, even with the additional optional 3-year extensions, was not a long enough period. So then I went into the town records and I said, okay, what other leases has the town given? And the town recently gave a 50-year lease to a property in town. So I said, 50 years is a good long time. That sounds like a great thing for Tesa to be able to get these fields in use. They'll be improved, and people for the next 50 years, or maybe 48, depending on how long it takes us to build, will be able to use what we've done. So that is the reason for the 50 years.
Comment comes as part of the answer to the question. Mr. Rideout.
Yeah, Bill Rideout, 88 South Harbor Road. I certainly understand the concerns that you want to give the TASA the best chance of making grants, but ultimately I'm going to vote the way TASA really sees. So, I mean, if you can come to a compromise or some changes that TASA would approve of, I will vote for it. Otherwise, I will vote down this motion. Thank you.
Ms. King.
Hi again. I am not in favor of the amendment. I think that the TASA and the Select Board have worked to create this 50-year lease, and they've negotiated the reasons for it. I think that TASA has been operating those soccer fields responsibly, and they've been running a great program as far as I know. I don't have any kids in soccer, or, I haven't been down there, but everything I've seen that they're running, they're a good partner. They're a good neighbor in Townsend and a good neighbor to the Turtles. And I think that there's a lot at stake, and I think giving them, like she said, we've got other 50-year leases that we've given. What's wrong with these guys? Why can't we give it to them? There's no reason not to, but I think that making it more complicated for the Select Board, I mean, to do all this extra stuff makes it harder for the Select Board. Giving a 50-year lease, the parameters are all set, and if any amendments need to be made, they can also be negotiated. Just because you have a 50-year lease doesn't mean you can't renegotiate at some time. But I think that we can lock things in, and everybody, the town, us, the kids, and TASA can plan for the future for as long as soccer is a thing, and I think it's only growing, actually. But I think the 50-year lease, the original motion, I think, is the best deal that we have in front of us, and that's what has been worked on. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Brad
Maintain the decorum.
Brad Hahn, 1 Brown Road. What I'd like to say is what the soccer program has built is something that's going to be sustainable and last the test of time. I think we all know sports aren't going anywhere, and that's one big bright spot for this community. The 50-year lease makes a lot of sense in my mind, because let's just look back at other fields in this town. We have a baseball field in Timberley Park we can't touch because now that it's become overgrown, just to be able to get approvals, the cost that it's going to take to get approvals to resurrect that is ridiculous. We have a group that's already reached into their own pocket, has already been a benefit of the town, and they want to continue that work. There is no reason, honestly, to even consider this amendment and to stick with the original amendment lasted by the soccer program. In regards to the fields not being open, if you go on their website, you could actually look on the Townsend Ashby Youth Baseball website. You can get onto the fields. They will allow you to use those fields. There is policies in place to be able to get those fields. So it's not an accurate depiction, and it definitely skews the view and perception of the 50-year lease. So I want to make sure I'm adamantly clear about that. And I know we have some people from Townsend Ashby Youth Baseball here that can dive in a little bit more, but I want to make sure that that's very well understood. From my understanding, the soccer program's not looking to keep anybody out. I'd also ask how many Townsend residents actually make up the quantity of the amount of kids that are playing in that program. I would argue a very small percentage of Ashby students are there. For all those that were in favor of keeping Ashby open, why wouldn't we want Ashby to come to this community? It only benefits us. So from those perspectives, other than an emotional response to where this field's come from, I can't understand why we'd be opposed to this.
So,
Ms. Graven?
I'm trying to think of Kelly's question. It was compromise on the time. So to be clear, there's flexibility for the board to go up in years without the town meeting vote. So that's a flexibility for the select board. Legislatively, it's over that threshold that it has to come to a town meeting vote. But when you go over that threshold is when it triggers the perception that it's a transfer, and just the language used here tonight, that it's the TASA fields. They're actually not. They were deeded to the inhabitants of the town of Townsend, not one league. And just the fact that they control the permitting makes it even look more like a transfer. There's lots of legislation around that. So
Well,
It's
point
not,
of,
it's not an
this is on
emotional
the
response,
motion
it's just
to
a-
amend, so
Yeah, so,
I'd like
so
to
that was the
limit
question
this.
of what the, sort of the, like an agreement would be on the different lease.
I'm
That was with
still,
keeping
I'm still
the
ruling
same-
that this is on the motion to amend,
Right.
and this discussion is not
Right, but
to
that was
the
the
point.
question of what it would be, like if I would amend the amendment, I was keeping with the 10 years because that's what they were already operating on, was a 10-year.
Again,
Did you ask Selena
at this
what
point,
number of years it would be useful?
What's that?
Ask Selena how many years would be useful. 20? She's right. I mean, I'm just saying to help you
Yeah.
come to a
I mean-
meeting of the minds here.
well, right now, I'm trying to get to the point of voting on this amendment, either up or down.
So we've been working with the baseball, Townsend Ashby Youth Baseball, and they applied for a loan and were denied because they did not have a long-term lease. So to Tasa's point of view, 50 years is a long-term lease. I was told that if we wanted to have more than a 3-year lease, we had to come to town meeting. So 30 was not an option.
So I'm not sure who you talk to, but whoever you talk to needs to read the law. Sorry. Read the law.
Yeah, someone would have to make that motion at the microphone so I could identify who it is.
Cindy King, 1 West Elm Street. Move the question.
Is there a second? At this point, I did not hear a second up here.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of moving the question, please say aye. Aye. All those who are opposed to moving the question, please say no. The ayes have it, it's unanimous. What is the motion to amend? Can someone read that question? Now I know why you sat down. Move to amend Article 6 and inserting in place thereof to authorize the Select Board to enter into non-exclusive use agreements, licenses, permits, or short-term lease arrangements, each for a term not to exceed 10 years, with youth organizations, recreational groups, and other community users, provided that such agreements preserve municipal oversight, guaranteed continued public access, and ensure the land is available for broad recreational purposes and organized youth sports serving the residents of the inhabitants of the town of Townsend, as so stated in the deed conveyed as part of the open space residential development related to the Horseshoe Drive, containing 40 acres, more or less, as described in a deed recorded with the Middlesex South District Registry of Deeds in Book 41569, page 181, excluding therefrom the water well test field shown as fields, the well field, located on Mason Road in West Townsend, Massachusetts. All those in favor, please say aye. Those who are opposed, say no. No. The noes have it, it's unanimous.
So we're back
Well,
to the original.
we're back to the original motion now,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Moderator. So I think you can take over. You got us here.
All right, I stepped into it that time. All right, is there anything further to be said? Ms. Churchville.
Mary Jane Churchville, 292 Main Street. I just want to clarify that I am speaking right now as a resident, not as a member of FinCom.
Okay.
Okay, because FinCom didn't take any recommendation on this at the time. I would like to make a motion.
What's your motion?
My motion is to table this article so that we can get more information on what the lease is going to say and to get legal opinions if it is in violation of any articles like 97, 30B, anything that would compromise the lease. And I just want to throw in the fact that I am very...
Well, I think, Ms.
Okay.
Churchfield, you can make a motion to table, but that's not debatable, so you can't really, advocate for it. It requires a 2/3 vote.
Okay.
Basically...
And I wrote it. Yeah, I wrote it out.
Yeah, I mean, typically, what we do, and although in our practice, typically this will come out at the beginning, so I'm entertaining your motion to table as basically a motion to take no action. So when you table something, it basically takes it off the table of our discussion now, and it can be brought back at a later date. So whether you call it a motion to table or a motion to take no action, the effect is the same, that we put off, we're basically postponing a decision on this until it's brought back at another date. So, but it does require, it's not debatable, and it does require a 2/3 vote. So, all those in favor of taking no action on this article, this is the main article, Article 6, please say aye. Those opposed, say no. No. Okay, the noes have it. The motion to table is not passed. So the main article is before us. Is there anything further to be said? Looks like we're ready to vote. Yes, Mr. Streeter.
Hi, Colby Streeter, Wallace Hill Road. I noticed that one of the benefits up there is the endangered species habitat preservation is benefit. I understand the conservation restriction work on it, and that is certainly going to benefit the endangered species there. And I thank you, everyone, for who has worked on that. A lot of tireless nights on that, I've noticed. But in saying, I don't see how there's a benefit when, the intent is to develop another field and have a lot more asphalt and parking spaces, driveway, the lighting from the lighting structures, the lightning, big lightning rod, whatever you call it. Also a hard structure being the intended snack shack. It's all taking away from habitat that is within the natural heritage endangered species area.
All right, comments come on the motion. I'm sorry, your name again?
Selena Thomas,
All right.
99 Warren Road. There is not going to be any lighting at the fields. It is part of our lease that we are not allowed to have lighting, and we are in full support of that. We are going to have a lightning structure, which is a pavilion that people can get under when lightning comes to the fields, which it does frequently in the spring and summer.
Okay, comments come on the motion. Mr. Rideout.
It's also the intent to have much more parking space, a new driveway, and another field as well. Is there really been a study to assess if these extra areas are needed for the level of use that the town gets? And I understand that they do use Hawthorne Brook already for their in-town league, the younger kids. I have more on that too. Go ahead.
So, all right, if you can.
Selena Thomas. Yes, there has been some investigation into different possibilities, using other fields, buying other property. And as far as whether or not we need this, currently we do use the Hawthorne Brook fields, but we are charged hourly by the school system. which has become prohibitive. So we would like to bring all of our soccer players to the same location. And we also have worked with the Endangered Species Department in the state, and they are approving our current field expansion suggestion, like our, what we have proposed.
Mr. Moderator, could I say something?
Ms. Kell.
The additional parking, there's a section of the property that is not within priority habitat, and that is the section where the additional parking is going with that added entrance onto Mason Road. That section of the property is not within priority habitat, so just note that. All the rest of the property is, but where they've really worked hard to get something that an HESP would approve, and having the parking where they have it eliminates that concern.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay, hold on, Mr. Streeter. Mr. Streeter, you got to be re-recognized. You can't just stay there and keep asking questions. I'm sorry.
May I be recognized?
Mr. Rahala.
We are now trying to micro-negotiate the lease that's being authorized only by this vote. All of this discussion may very well be sound, but it has nothing to do immediately with this motion for approval of this article, which is simply to authorize the board.
Well, I think some elements of it are within the four corners of the article as far as people want to vote for this because they need to know more about the lease and the conditions. So I gave Mr. Streeter some liberty there with asking questions. But I think we're at a point where you're right, Mr. Rahala, that the lease and its specific terms, we are not going to negotiate here at the town meeting. So I think we're ready to vote. So without a motion to move the question. So all those in favor of the motion on Article 6, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. No. The ayes have it. And that brings us to, and I hope all the soccer players and baseball players will be marching in Townsend's 250th parade on June 20th. All right, is Article 7, I believe. Is there a, I'm going to omit reading Article 7 unless you really want me to.
Mr. Moderator, I'd like to make a motion to table Articles 7, 8, and 9 as they will return at a later town meeting.
All right. Typically, if we're not going to take action, in Townsend, we take a motion to take no action.
I make a motion to take no action on Articles 7, 8, and 9 as they will return at a later town meeting.
You should identify who you are. Right.
All right. Motion has been made to take no action on Articles 7, 8, and 9? Or, okay. So understand this is something of a consent decree type of motion. What's being asked is that we take all of the remaining articles, which are 7, 8, and 9.
We have 10 and 11. No.
Oh, we still have 10 and 11? Okay, sorry. That's just 7, 8, and 9 to take no action.
There is a hand up down in FinCom.
Yeah. Probably not. So basically, I guess we'll put this off till, do you want to count it? Does anybody want to count? It looks like we don't have a quorum. So, effectively, we're taking no action on the remaining articles anyway. Is there a motion to adjourn? Rather to dissolve?
Harrison Mayotte, so moved.
Wait, I guess if we don't have a quorum, we have to dissolve. Mr. Rahala? Right, so I think we have to make a decision about whether or not, it's been made, you're right. If we don't count, I'm going to declare that we don't have a quorum, And so we'll have to entertain a motion to adjourn, which we'll decide, I guess, later whether or not we're going to bring this back at a later date, maybe at the annual town meeting.
Special within an annual?
Well, we do a special within the annual usually.
Yeah.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn? Does the Select Board have a time frame for another meeting?
It would be at the annual town meeting.
You'll see on the screen here, annual town election, April 27th, annual town meeting, May 5th, 2026, here at the North Middlesex Regional High School, 7 o'clock that evening.
So we can adjourn the remainder of this meeting to May 5th, if you want to take these articles up again on that date.
Or you can just put them on the annual warrant.
Or just, yeah.
Otherwise, you get to your town meeting with the bonds. Just put them on the annual.
No, the warrant's closed.
Oh, the warrant's closed. The select board meeting. Maybe we'll just continue because I forgot it was closed. It's closed.
I don't know if we can dissolve.
No, it's closed. I have placeholders.
Yeah, so it's up to you. You know, either way. It's still the selectmen's warrant, so they can, even when it's closed, they can reopen.
I don't think there's any prohibition in our just dissolving the meeting. And you can bring these articles back in the annual.
Yeah, we'll bring them back to the annual.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to dissolve this meeting? Second? All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed?